Well, it's really how people think about the future that's dangerous. So they often use very linear views of the future. They create what I call myths of the future, and which is a single story that they kind of reinforce, and they use the confirmation bias to find information that reinforces their view of the future when lots of other things are happening, and they don't open themselves to those possibilities. So if they do practice that way, where they think about a single linear future, then they're often going to be surprised by things. They're going to potentially have very disruptive things happen to them that then become dangerous, right? So they can disrupt their business, they can disrupt their lives, and so I encourage people to very much think about the future as an open set of possibilities and to engage with it actively and to pay attention in what's going in around the world and what's happening in the world around them. So one of the things I do is never answer a question about what's going to happen in the future, but I think there's a number of things that the real estate world has to worry about, things from climate change to what's happening, when we think about European real estate in particular, what's happening with Russia, what's happening with the monetary policy, everything from the way that banks are managed, the way that money is loaned, and I think there's a lot of things that they have to think about, as well as how technology plays into the building of structures, but also the social side. And I think that's one of the things we often miss. We'll say, technology is doing this, we can go lobby and we can change the way that laws are done, but we don't think about what people are doing, what people need, what people want. And because people, when they're buying a home, for instance, buy a home based on where they were built, not where they necessarily wanted to live. And so, getting to the point of actually reconnecting with people and understanding what their needs are and what their desires are, and both in the workplace and at home, I think is something that real estate in general really needs to understand better. Yeah, well, the problem is trends is that again, people are looking at things, and sometimes you'll walk outside into a shopping area and you'll say 3 people are wearing a red sweater. And that's a trend. Everybody should have a red sweater. And we look at even bigger issues like mega cities, and everybody should move to a city because they've made this rationale that it is a better, more efficient place to live, and it's where infrastructure is being built, and it's where people are congregating and services are provided at a lower cost. But there's a lot of value to be had in rural living. There's still things that people need for personal growth and expansion that may not be fulfilled in a city. But because we think about the trend, we kind of reinforce that. People say, well, moving to the city is the right thing. Sometimes policy, in China, for instance, they are saying, they're actually asking people to move to cities and out of the rural areas, which is impacting farming. They're now not necessarily having the right people or the smartest people or the most efficient people doing the farming, and so they're moving them to factories because they're doing this industrial thing. And so we have this trend in globalization that's all about, how do we make things more industrial, more efficient, more progressive, and sometimes those trends are not real, and sometimes we use them to reinforce things that aren't really there, and so we make a trend out of something that we've only kind of perceived, but it may or may not actually be, what we would think of as statistically a trend. Well, the real point of my presentation was to get people to stop thinking about the future as something that's declarative. Very often when you have a future speaker, they will tell you what the future is going to be. They will tell you that if you don't listen to them, you're going to go out of business, you're going to go bankrupt. These are the answers to what's going to happen in the future. And even if they're ultimately true in 10 or 50 years or 100 years, there's a lot of ups and downs in the meantime. And so I try to coach people to learn how to navigate the future, to understand what's happening right now. And so it's very much like someone navigating the seas where, I know I'm going to eventually make it to the other side of the ocean, but there's a lot of stuff in between that I have to worry about. And if I think it's a straight path, I'm going to make a lot of bad choices along the way. And so recognizing that your path is going to be rocky and circuitous and difficult, and paying attention to that is, I think, going to help ensure your safety and the safety of the organizations that you work for.